Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush, and this time we're just going to have fun and we're going to paint some spaceships. Now, I'm just going to paint the very quick basics of these spaceships, but you can take your time, add lots of detail, add a lot of interesting things to really make it your personal version. So I'm just going to do some quick spaceships that should be fairly recognizable, and you can use these as starting points. So I'm here in our outer space environment. We've got a moon, but I'm going to get the moon off to the side. We don't need them right now. And I'm going to make some spaceships. So this first one I'm going to go to a bright red color and get the shiny hull, and I'm going to make a spiffy spaceship for any spaceman. This is following the classic flying saucer with bubble cockpit. So I'm going to get a nice shiny red hull. I'm also going to use the straight edge so I can make a nice disc. Finally, I'm going to get a little bigger and make a big brush, so this disc should have a rounded edge. So now I'm going to use my straight edge, do the circle trick with a shiny hull, and it should give me a nice disc. And you can see bigger and smaller, it changes the edge of that disc a little bit. So I'm going to get it to a nice size and shape. There we go. Use the selection tool so you can see this is my nice hull for the spaceship. Now I want to keep the same color for some of the details here, but I don't really need the straight edge unless you're not steady with your hand. You can keep using the straight edge here if you like. I'm going to switch to one of these other tools, in this case the Toon tool. Play with the size a little bit so I can get a couple of these things pointing out of the front for headlights and a couple more coming out of the back for engines. Now to make the engines complete, I want to add some tail fins here as well. So I'm going to go back to the shiny hull, but this time make it tiny. So it's going to be very thin. Now I can do just a quick, whoops, I don't need the straight edge anymore because I want to give it a nice curved edge. Fin number 1. Fin number 2. If you want them to be perfectly the same, you could use your selection tool and duplicate one fin. Get it in the same place on the other side. Now we've got some nice fins on the engines of my spaceship. So the thrusters, these engines, I'm just going to do it traditional. I'm going to grab my fire in a nice bright yellowy orange. And we're going to have, I'm going to do it both sideways and up and down. That way, no matter what angle you look at it, it's still readable as fire coming out of the rocket engines. Now I'm going to switch to a bluer light and a regular light so I can put some headlights on this guy. Let's make my light brush good size here. So now my spaceship, pretty spiffy. The bubble cockpit, I'm going to switch to my diamond hull, and I'm going to use a nice dark blue so it has that glass kind of canopy. Now if I want to, I could use the sphere tool so it's perfectly, the sphere trick, so it's perfectly straight. So it's making a circle and then again pulling it out into a sphere. Now that's not going to work on all devices. Quest, for example, can't really do the sphere trick. So rather than trying to do a sphere trick, I'm going to do it by hand. I'm going to make a big circle to start with. Whoops, except I don't need the straight edge anymore. Circle and then have it get a little taller to the top. In this case, I'm not worried about making it perfect. If you are concerned about perfection, you might not necessarily get it the first time. Or you can use our sphere trick to try to get a nice, perfectly half-dome bubble. In this case, that's good enough for my example here. If I did want to put a pilot in there, I would either want to do the pilot first, Or come somewhere else and do the pilot separately. So we'll give him a pink shirt and a green helmet. Now I can grab this guy and get him the appropriate size and placement. You do need to get it right without reselecting, because if he's inside the bubble, it's hard for Tilt Brush to tell whether you want to grab the pilot or the bubble itself. You might have to move everything out of the way and then get the pilot back into place. So if you want to add landing gear and weapons and other cool things, you can, but I'm just going for this quick, simple, spiffy little spaceship here. Let's get some nice, soft, dark clouds for smoke. To get some engines coming out of there, we've got that. So let's smoke, whoosh, whoosh. Now we've got our engines on our spaceship. To keep this all as one piece, I'm going to use my selection tool and select everything, all the pieces, the smoke, all the details, and group. Now that it's grouped, that spaceship is one piece. So I can just select any part of it and grab the whole thing, resize it, move it around, duplicate it, so I can have a whole fleet of spaceships if I want. Whatever you like. These are yours to play with. This is just a quick starting point. We'll have him zooming around over the moon. So there we go. Spiffy spaceship number 1. There we go. Complete with bubble canopy. So another popular spaceship, easy to get the foundation, but you could spend a lot of time on, is I'm going to go for gray in our matte hull, and I'm going to go for a big spaceship, a big wedge shape. This is something that's going to be big enough to destroy stars, a very popular spaceship. So I'm just going to bring out a line, up, down, left, right. Left and right is a little bigger than up and down, and that simple shape creates this nice wedge. So let's select that so you can see it. A lot of different spaceships start from a wedge like this, but I'm going to do that famous one that destroys stars. Here we go. I'm going to keep using that same color, the same brush. Depending on how steady your hand is, you might not need the straight edge tool to get the shapes you're looking for. You don't have to be perfect, just get a rough estimate. And now I can move pieces, change their size. Actually, I like it better on this way. Let's get him the right size and angle. Make him a little bigger, make him a little smaller, that kind of thing. Actually, I think I like it better this way. There we go. Deselect. There, now let's get a little tower under here. And we'll make this a little more smooth. Okay. Let's drop you down a little bit. Now we're looking like something we can use here. Let's get a little one of these guys here. I'm going to go a little bigger so I can do a single pop. A little too big. Pop. Pop. There we go. Pop, pop, and we have ourselves a nice, quick, simple, solid shape. Again, you can add more details, side flanks, more nose pieces coming forward, that type of thing. Little side flank on this guy. Any of the pieces you want to do to enhance the feeling, enhance that look. I'm going to make the wedge itself a little bigger. There we go. Feel free to walk around it, move it, change its size and shape, get it exactly the way you want it. There. Of course, now it's even bigger than the moon. Now, with some of the details on these guys, let's get rid of you. With some of the details on this, guys. Ooh, actually, I don't like you very much. Let's get you angled better. I don't want to be too much of a perfectionist because I don't have a lot of time for the episode, but you can take as much time as you want to get it as perfect as you can. Let's get all these moved over a little bit. Now, for some of the details, like the lights and things like that, I'm actually going to go for a straight edge with the dots tool. Let's get our spaceship here. I'm going to make my dots pretty small, and let's make them a very pale yellow. So now I can do a straight line along the edge. Try it again, straight line along the edge. There we go. Let's change size and get a few along here. Change size, make these smaller, and start getting some along here. And along here. And back here. However much detail you want to give your vehicle, your spaceship, it's just a matter of taking the time and seeing where you want these details to show up. So I'm just adding these lights using the straight edge. So they're going to follow those patterns. Now let's go behind. We're going to get that classic blue in the light. Oops, I don't need the straight edge here. And we now have a recognizable spaceship to fly around and destroy stars. It's a little big, so let's get it here. We're going to select all of these pieces again, all of the lights, all the dots, all the details, group it. So now this spaceship exists as one solid piece. Let's see how that looks in our setup here. So we've got our spiffy spaceship. We've got a spaceship big enough to destroy stars. Let's go a little smaller, a little more intimate here. Sometimes a spaceship isn't a spaceship, so I'm going to make a spaceship that's a phone box. I'm going to find a nice, deep, dark blue. Now, a perfect rectangle is actually very easy. I'm going to go for my matte hull with a straight edge. I'm going to make myself big, and you'll notice a straight edge matte hull gives me this nice rectangle. It's going to have a little bit of a curvy edge where your hand lets go. The starting point is nice and square. The ending point has a little bit of a bulge. So I want to use that as my top. Let's get back into the center here. Get the moon out of the way and make a straight edge. That's pretty good. Since I'm going to have four sides roughly the same, I'm going to kill the straight edge, but I'm going to give myself that nice palish window color and light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a little too bright. Let's turn the brightness down a little bit. That's not much better, but that's okay. We'll go with it for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And duplicate these guys over here. Okay, now we're going to keep our straight edge, switch to a dark blue, very dark blue, and I'm going to use the marker so there's no highlight. And I'm going to sketch in a quick framework. And maybe a little bigger, one across like that. Now the shade of blue I want next is a little darker than that one, but still a little paler than the light one. And again, I'm going to use the marker. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's select these and duplicate. So now I've got these panels describing the side. Let's move these guys down just a little bit. These guys up just a little bit. So now I'm going to get all of the pieces, but not the blue center. It's okay if you accidentally get the blue center, because in our selection tool, we can use the option to deselect, and all we're left with is that framework. Now I can duplicate that framework and put one on all 4 sides. Put one back here. Bring one around to this side. I'm not going to worry about perfection too much here, mostly because I don't have too much time to do all of these spaceships, but you can take as much time as you need. Pull you back out. There. And then one side gets a slightly different color for one of the panels. Okay. Now, like all the other ones, I'm going to grab all, oops, I need a light on top. Almost forgot. Pale blue, bright light. Just like the fire on the thrusters of the spaceship, I'm going to do this at a couple of different angles. So no matter which angle you look at this spaceship, you'll have that light on top. Let's see if I can add. It doesn't work very well. So there we have another kind of spaceship. Let's grab all the pieces. Select all the pieces. Making your brush bigger, making yourself bigger, makes it a little easier to select all these pieces. Group. So now this spaceship, let's put a small spaceship right on the moon. Okay, so now we've got a selection of different spaceships going. You can see the basics of the hull, the basics of the structure doesn't need to be complicated. Use the main standard simple pieces. And then we can add more detail as you have time. We'll do one more for this demonstration. We've got a destroyer of stars, we've got a spiffy spaceship, we've got a police box, phone box. Let's do one more, a very enterprising little starship, very popular one. It's going to be mostly white, and I'm going to switch to that shiny hull again with a straight edge, because the top is going to be a disc. So the straight edge with a matte hull very quickly makes a disc. There we go. Let's move that up front. Get everybody else out of the way. Disc. I'm going to keep my straight edge going for a couple of engines. I'm going to use the icing because that's got some nice highlight and shadow. Adjust your thickness, adjust your size as you need. That's about right. And rather than try to force them to be the same, I'm just going to duplicate and put one over here. I know they're going to be the exact same size, exact same length. So the body, I'm actually going to get a bigger, but of the same type. Because I'm not going to go for too much detail right now. Okay, now we can use our grab tool to change the size, to move it around, get it just the way we want it. Okay. Now in this case, the icing tool did give it some texture. Whether or not you want that, you can experiment with different tools to give you the different surfaces that you want. So now we're going to go to our plain ordinary matte hull, make it very skinny, so I can make the connection points. Let's see, let's do it like that. Okay, select that, grab that piece. I actually like it better that way. And then we'll duplicate and put it going this way. Feel free to move it around and move yourself around so you can make sure it's the way you want it. Okay, that's pretty good. And then one more. Let's do it this way. Okay, that's not quite right. That's it, like that. That's a little better. Okay. We're going to make you a little smaller. We're going to find a nice orange, shiny. Put a radar dish on front up there. We'll grab a nice bright red. And we'll put some caps on these. Again, the more time you take, the more detail you can give it. Same as before, we can use our straight edge with dots to give these things lights. Whether I want to do a nice pale blue, and using my straight edge, you can see we can get them lined up nicely. If I want lights going around the saucer part, I can actually use the dots with a straight edge and make a circle. There we go. Now I'm going to grab that circle and get it on top of that saucer. Get it lined up, get it the right size, get it in position. That's pretty good. Unselect. Now we've got a spaceship and we're starting to add details. Let's add some blue. We're going to add blue, make it glowy slightly. Any good glowy? And so on and so forth with whatever details you want. So we can start making this vast fleet of spaceships. Now we're going to do as before, select the whole thing, group it together. Now let's add him to our collection. Here we go. So a bunch of different spaceships, all using the basic tools, mostly using straight edges for circles, straight edges for lights, that type of thing, just to have fun with it. Your own spaceships, you can add whatever details you like. Your own spaceships, you can either model them off of famous spaceships or you can make up your own. Once you go science fiction, there's no right or wrong, so just have fun with it. Hopefully this inspires you to try some different things. Hopefully this gives you some ideas to try yourself. I had a lot of fun doing these. Hopefully you can try your own and let me know what you think. They're supposed to be fun. Here's a case where maybe, okay, let's get a little more action in here. I'm going to grab my neon pulse in green. Watch this. Ready? Straight edge. There we go. And so on and so forth. Do whatever you want, have fun, try the different tools. I'm getting a little carried away here, so I'm going to stop now before I go too far. We'll leave those spaceships on screen for you. Now I'll come down here and get my usual subscribe message, but I think you guys get the idea. Have fun. Let me know in the comments below what you... Oops, better turn off the straight edge here. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for future episodes or if you have things you'd like us to describe. We do this all the time on youtube.com/shamelessmayhem. Have fun with Tilt Brush, everyone.